What's going on, everybody? Nick here, and in this video I'm going to build a system that was requested by one of my viewers. I made a post about a week and a half ago, and I essentially sourced a bunch of video ideas. This is one of them. We're going to be taking daily newsletters that come into our inbox, and then we're going to be summarizing them and then converting them into basically an MP3 using OpenAI's new text-to-speech function. And then we're just going to be listening to that every day, as opposed to scrolling through miles and miles of pointless newsletter garbage. So if that sounds like something you guys are interested in, stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, this video was requested by the lovely @Fook4477. He wanted an automation that summarizes all of our daily newsletters and converts them into audio to allow you to listen to all your newsletters in one go every day. I thought that it was a really cool idea. I would never personally use this for myself. I don't know if I'd be able to sell this to people, to be honest, because it seems like more of a personal productivity hack than something like B2B, something that has pronounced revenue benefits, but I just figured, while I was going through the requests, might as well do a video like this. Maybe you guys just want a cool little portfolio piece or something you guys can just use to learn a little bit more about how Make.com works. Okay, but obviously in order to make the system work, we're going to need some email addresses. So what I have over here is I just have a few newsletters that I've forwarded from another inbox that actually receives newsletters. I've basically unsubscribed from the vast majority of newsletters that I was previously subscribed to. And so what I'm going to do here, just in lieu of actually having some type of daily newsletter, is I'm just going to add a label to all of these. And I'm just going to label it something like newsletter. And this is just going to be my own search term. If you guys get newsletters every single day, for instance, you can either manually add them to the search term that I'm about to show you. Maybe you know that you're always getting a Beehive newsletter from Peter Watson, who writes about, I don't know, B2B SaaS. Or you could also procedurally search for the term newsletter. You could also have AI try and find newsletters in your mailbox. This would be a lot more token intensive and a fair amount of work, but something that you could do. But I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to say, hey, anything with the label newsletter is going to be part of our automation for the day. So that's where I'm at. The really cool part about the system is you don't just have the ability to apply it to newsletters. You could use a system like this to theoretically, if you wanted to create a personal productivity system, summarize every single email that you've received in, I don't know, the last 24 hours or something. So whether it's from a friend or a family member or a business or whatever, you can actually have the system go through and then be like, hey, yesterday Peter asked you what you were doing on Wednesday night. Sally wants to talk a little bit about, I don't know, Jerry or something like that, right? You have a lot of options here. And that's one of the really cool parts about using AI that's as flexible as this. So that's what I have over here. On the left tab here, I have a scenario that I created called newsletter to MP3. Very straightforward. Essentially, let me delete all these so we can just start from scratch together. I'm clicking this plus button. And then, I'm thinking about it in my head. The first thing that I want to verify that works is sort of the last thing that we'd actually use in the scenario. And this is a very useful pattern to use when designing systems. Start at the end and then work your way back to the beginning, because usually what's going on at the end is more important than what's going on at the beginning. And if you verify that works, you can usually save yourself a fair amount of time. So when I say the end, what do I mean? Well, if you think about it, we're going to do a bunch of stuff to newsletters. We're going to get a bunch of data. And at the end, we're going to need to turn it into speech, right? Because that was part of the scope that was provided by the lovely Fook4477. So if we want that to work, then we're going to need a transcription or a text-to-speech sort of tool. Now, luckily for us, OpenAI has this built in, and this is a reasonably new endpoint that they've added, probably in the last 4 or 5 months ago, called Generate an Audio. It's actually built directly into Make.com now, which is nice. Previously, you had to do it via API call. But all we need to do is just go down to Generate an Audio. And then you'll see I already have my connection set up and stuff like that. If you don't, you'll have to go through and add your organization key. You'll have to add your API key. You can click the online help for that. But there's simply 2 fields. There's an input field, and then there's a model field. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, hey, my name is Nick, and it's nice to meet you. And I'm going to send this over to our text-to-speech service. And there are a variety of different models you could use, but they basically differ in how long it would take to generate the audio. And so essentially, TTS-1, I think, is the fastest one. TTS-1-1106, I don't know if this is faster. I think this might be a little bit slower. TTS-1 HD is a high definition, so you'll get higher quality audio. And then TTS-1-HD-1106 is I believe the 11 stands for November, and then I think it was developed on November the 6th or something. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. If you go down to show advanced settings, you have a bunch of options here, and you can actually select like the voice that you want. You can, select Alloy or Echo or Fable, right? They've added all of these names to different voices. I personally like the one called Onyx. Just sounds like a pretty cool dude. And then you can output it in whatever format you want. So MP3, Opus, AAC, FLAC. And then, you can also define the speed. So I'm just going to keep this as default because my whole idea here is just to test this as quickly as possible. And then I'm just going to run this puppy. So it's taken in my text, and then you see it's already generated a result. Now, if you try and do this on your end, what you'll see is you'll quickly realize that, the only output is binary. And so it's not really something that we can just like put our ears up to our speaker and then listen to. It doesn't really make any sense or mean anything to us. So essentially what we have to do is we have to, for the purposes of testing, convert this into a format that, is audible to the human ear and not just a bunch of weird hexadecimal binary data. So what I'm going to do in order to get that done is I'll go over to Google Drive. And then if you guys watched my previous video, I used a module called download a file. This time we're going to use a module called upload a file. So it's just the exact opposite of that. And essentially what we need to do is we just need to turn this into something that we can access on the internet outside of make.com. Because right now in make.com, it's just like this big binary file. It doesn't really mean anything to us. What we're going to do is we're going to take this. We're then going to upload it onto a Google Drive as an MP3. And then I'm just going to play the MP3 so that I can actually hear it. So I'm going to drag and drop this Google Drive upload a file module. And then the folder ID that I'll just do like a backslash. I'm just going to do my, this just stands for like your root. And then you'll see that it actually automatically mapped the file, OpenAI, ChatGPT, this previous module here. And Make does this because a lot of people get very intimidated by binary. So if we were just to run this at this point, it would upload a file, but then the end result would be inaccessible. And this is just sort of a quirk of make.com that you have to know. When you do these upload a file things, the end result is inaccessible unless you explicitly add another module called get a share link after the upload a file module. So in order to make this work, basically, I'm just going to feed in the file ID that I have from the previous module here. And then the role, just for the purposes of this, I'm just going to go to type anyone. And then the role, let's just do owner. Actually, let's just do reader. Okay, and then I'm going to set allow file discovery to no. I believe this means that like it would actually be indexed on Google or something like that, which is, to be fair, pretty crazy. I don't want my files to be indexed on Google. I don't really know anybody who would. Anywho, so yeah, that's that. I'm going to click OK. And everything here should be mapped properly, so I'm going to click run once and see what happens. Looks pretty good. Awesome. And the end result is I have a share link here that I can copy and then open up in a new tab. You can see I have this OpenAI-TTS-output.mp3, and then I believe I have my audio hooked up, so you should be able to hear this. If not, I'll figure this out in post.
Hey, my name is Nick, and it's nice to meet you.
That's pretty good. If you can imagine a longer form, podcast style, or I don't know, I guess in our case, it's like a story where it reads your newsletters in the morning. That's pretty good. Yeah, pretty solid. I think that would do quite well. So I'm going to stick with the Onyx voice, and then let's get to work building out the rest of this. So just off the top of my head, I haven't spent more than 30 seconds scoping this, but back when I was clicking this generate an audio module, I noticed that it said must be between 1 and 4,096 characters long. So I have a feeling this is probably going to result in some issues for us. So I'm going to go Command-C and then paste, I'm just going to get like a rough estimate of the number of words that is by going to characters to words calculator, apparently. And it looks like we can feed in at once about 630 to 819 words. I'm thinking that if we were to summarize like 3 or 4 newsletters, where was my inbox here? If I were to try and summarize like 3 or 4 newsletters, that would probably work. We'd probably be able to summarize like one newsletter in like 100 words or whatever, despite how long it is. Maybe more. But if we were to do like an infinite number of newsletters, we would need a system that would accommodate that. And what I mean by accommodate that is if you can only feed in 4,096 characters per GPT API call, then what we should probably do is we should come up with a system that chunks that the text into 4,096 character chunks, or maybe not 4,096 characters, but we have to go up until like the last word, basically. And then we should run it a bunch of times, and then we should aggregate those files and then find a way to stitch them together. So this is actually going to be pretty exciting now that I think about it, because I don't think I've done something like stitching MP3 files together. So it's actually going to be quite exciting. I'm happy that I chose this request now. Okay, so anyway, I'll deal with that specific aspect of things in a second. For now, I'm just going to hook up the email and make sure that works. So I'm going to go to email built in, and then I'm just going to do get emails, so return emails that match the specified criteria. And I'm just going to make sure this is hooked up to my inbox. And then I think I want, let's see, like a label or something. So I'm going to go newsletter for now. And then the maximum number of results, I'm going to do 4. I'm not going to do any subject, not before, after. Criteria, I guess I'll just do all emails. And then maybe folder is where I can select the label. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, let me do newsletter. Oh yeah, okay, cool. So I can actually just select my newsletters automatically. Now, let's think about it. If you guys want to develop this for yourself or maybe your own system, as I mentioned earlier, when I said like you'd be coming up with a search term, if you guys wanted to just like add all of the emails that have the term newsletter in them into our pool to be processed, you would just go down here to phrase and you would type the word newsletter, just like I did. So this would process only emails containing a specified character string anywhere, which means in the subject and the body and like the email footer from a guy called newsletter. There's a lot of options there, and maybe it'll be a little bit too many, but that would work quite quickly as a rough estimate. And then maybe you want it from a specific person or something like that. You could use subject for that, or maybe you know that it's from a specific recipient email address or something that sends you a bunch of newsletters a day. Or there are like 1,000,001 different ways to do this, but just off the top of my head, you could like have an email address called newsletter at whatever your domain is, and then any newsletters that go there, you forward it or something like that to you, and then you could set your recipient email address here. That might be one way to organize it. You could use mail hooks. So instead of using the get email module, what you do is in Gmail, you would set up a filter rule that says anything with the term newsletter or anything from all of these people gets sent to a mail hook. And then in Make, what you do is you'd set up a mail hook using this here. And a mail hook is just an email address that you can send emails to that'll basically trigger a make.com flow. So you'll have to go and like create it and do all that stuff. But anyway, that's not the purpose of the video, so I'm not getting too caught up in that. We just want to verify that this get emails module works. So yeah, let me just double check, make sure everything's good here. I'm not going to filter by emails, not going to filter from or before date, not going to filter by subject, phrase, or email ID. And then because I have 4 emails in that label, I'm also just going to return a maximum number of 4. So it's running, it's getting my emails. Okay, great. And then awesome. We got everything that I wanted, I imagine, because we got 4 results. And then the first is Nick example newsletter. So that's this one here. Nexus SaaS beginner, friends of FSP, and how to index sneaky backlinks. Yeah, great. So awesome. Let's run through and see what sort of data that we get. Just verify that we have everything that we need. There's first text content, and then there's also HTML content. And HTML content's way longer than the text content. Part of me thinks that what's happening under the hood is whatever system they're using to get the emails is just taking the HTML content and then it's just stripping the HTML from it, and then it's creating a new variable called text content. So assuming that text content doesn't have any major differences, this should be sufficient for us to feed into AI. Now, let me see what the sort of length that we're dealing with here. This is not that long, but I imagine if we were to try and summarize this, I don't know if we'd be able to do it in like 100 words. But anywho, let's give it a try and let's see what happens. So I'm going to get these emails, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for every one, I'm going to create a completion. And because this is outputting multiple bundles, as you see, it says bundle 1, bundle 2, bundle 3, bundle 4. That means that every module after the module that outputs multiple bundles will run however many times there are bundles. So that means that if I put an OpenAI module here, it will run 4 times, 1 for every bundle. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a chat completion. I'm going to choose GPT-4 Turbo, just for the purposes of demonstration. I'm going to say you are a helpful, intelligent writing assistant. And then I'm going to call it, or I'm going to tell it, your job is to summarize email newsletters. Preserve details and all of the main points. Let's do main/important points. Use Spartan casual language. Let's do that. And then what I just realized is I should probably summarize something as an example. Actually, no, let's just see how it goes on actual live data. Okay, I'm going to go down to text content, just paste that in here. Let's say write as if you're assistant, recounting the daily emails to your boss. That's basically what we're trying to have it do. I'm not going to set a max token limit. I'm just going to see, oh, I guess I have to set a max token limit. I lied. I'm going to say, I don't know, 500, 600. The temperature I'm going to set lower. I always like to set the temperature on 0.7 or 0.6. I may be wrong here, but I just like the way that feels. And then so that I'm not just wasting tokens, I'm only going to generate 2 examples. I'm not going to do 1 because I want to show you guys the multiple bundle feature, but I don't want to do 4 because then it would just take, an extra 5 or 10 or 15 seconds or something like that. So it's got our email. You'll see that it's still running despite already getting 1 email. And the reason why is because it's multiple bundles, right? So even though we got a result here, over here on all of the subsequent modules, we're going to have 2 results. And so that's why we see that pattern there with 1 and 2. I'm going to go down to result, and then I'm going to say, hey, just finished going through Nick Serrat's latest newsletter. Here's the lowdown. Oh, I got a sneeze coming on. No, I'm not going to sneeze. I'm strong. Nick points out a common issue where staff waste a lot of time, 70% of their day. Okay. This is pretty reasonable, not going to lie. Let's see the other one. I'm going to go down to operation 2 and then go result. Yeah, okay. This is sort of all over the place. So I think that we should probably do a little bit of example summarization first. So what I'll do is I'm going to go and grab my blog post, just one of the short ones. Short ones, that's funny. And then I'm going to copy it all text-wise. Ooh. This is weird. I don't know why I can't copy this. I'm going to create an example, basically. So I'm going to drag this one down to the bottom. And then this is going to be user. I'm going to paste this whole blog post in. It's pretty long, right? And then I'm going to add another one. Actually, I got to drag this one more time down to the bottom. And then I want this to be my assistant now, basically telling me the summarized version of this article. And then just for the purposes of the video, I'm just going to cut here and then I'll, fill it in with the summarized version. Otherwise, it'd probably take like an extra 15 or 20 minutes of just writing. Okay, great. I just gave it a quick example of the sort of thing that I want it to write, so with like tone of voice and that sort of thing. So I think this will do a substantially better job now. Let's click run once and then give it a go. A lot of the time you have to massage these systems if you want the prompting to work well. Just an inevitability, right? You have to train it a little bit. Training isn't really the right term to be using here, but I believe it's probably as close as you can get to like the closest and simplest way to represent kind of what's going on under the hood here. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, great. This looks pretty well formatted. And then, oh, sorry, it hasn't actually finished outputting yet. So yeah, great. This looks substantially better to me. Okay, that was kind of annoying, but my camera just turned off. So where we are right now is we've essentially generated a bunch of summaries of the various emails in the newsletter label on my inbox. And the question is, how do we convert this? Like if I were to just run this one more time, because I think it's been like half an hour since the last time I ran it. So let's actually be able to consult some primary data here. If we think about it, what we have now is we have, one pass through GPT-4 where we basically changed the email and we've summarized it a ton and we've removed a lot of the fluff. But, it's not really in a format that would sound good if, a robot voice started reading it out. There'd be too many pauses probably. There are a bunch of these like numbers with stars and that sort of thing. So the next step is to take this list of summaries and then to consolidate it further, and then also sort of wrap it in like nice storytelling sort of cadence and that sort of deal. So that's what I'm going to do next. And I've actually created a module here just while my camera wasn't working that basically does this. And it's a very similar flow to previously where we're creating a completion with GPT 4.5 5, I think, or a GPT-4 Turbo rather. And then we're basically feeding in this stuff, which is, that summary, into this module. And this module says you're a helpful, intelligent writing assistant. It says below is a list of email newsletter summaries. Consolidate these summaries as if you were recounting them to your boss. And that's sort of like the idea here, right? We want it to sound like it would sound like if, assistant was recounting the various goings on in the day to their boss. And that's more or less what we're doing. So that's what I've done here. And I'm just connecting both sides of the flow now, sticking them together. And then I've also created an email module, just the very far end. And this is just meant to deliver the summary to me. There are probably 15 different ways you could do so. You could do so directly through Make. So you could have Make on your phone, and then you could send a result to mobile and actually open it on your phone every morning at a certain time. Or you could just email yourself. You could use the Twilio API to send yourself a text message. I guess the point that I'm making is the delivery is not really the sauce here. Obviously the sauce here is the stuff that we're doing before that by just passing it through a bunch of AI modules. Probably the last thing that we need to do is, we just do it every day at, I don't know, let's say 6 a.m. in the morning. And then we send the email probably a couple of minutes after that. So maybe every day you'll get it at I don't know, 6:02. And just being cognizant of that, let's just make it 5:58 or something instead. That'll be nice. For the purposes of demo, I'm just going to leave 4 maximum results. And then let me just make sure everything else is working here. I got my training example here. I got the training output there. I got the max tokens, temperature. Okay, that looks good. We're now creating a completion here. That looks good with the temperature, nice. And then we're generating an audio. Okay, and then here is, this is where I was using actual test data, but I don't want to use test data. I want to use real data. And then we're uploading it to Google Drive. We're getting a share link, then we're sending the email. Okay, great. So I'm just going to give this a run with the 4 emails that I had previously. And then I'm going to open up my email address and hopefully get a brand spanking new, beautiful looking email with my audio summary that I can then listen to while I'm on the go, drinking my cup of joe in my automobile. I don't know, man. I'm not cut out for rap. So it's going to run. Oh, you know what I just realized? This is not going to work. And why won't it work? Because we need to aggregate all of the text. Yeah. See how it's just running once for every module? Basically, this is outputted 4 bundles, right? And so this is just using the first module's output, the first module's output, first bundle's output for every single one of these. So that was kind of silly, my bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a variable in here, and I'm going to call it, let's just do aggregated text. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. What I'll do is I'll specifically use the text aggregator. So we scroll down here, there's a text aggregator function. Looks like this. And then the source module is going to always just be the module that generates those bundles. So the multiple bundle generator in this case was the get emails module. And then the text that I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed the result in, and then I'm going to go new line, and then I'll just do 3 hyphens. That's probably the simplest. And that'll give us a bunch of text. And then the output will feed into here instead of what I had previously. That's nice. And then I'll auto-align it. Then I think I had an extra send an email module for some reason. Okay, so that was the problem. Excellent. So now we should basically be getting all the emails. We're going to generate multiple bundles for those. And then what'll happen is this will run every single time times the number of bundles. So if there are 4 bundles here, this will run 4 times. What this will do then is it'll generate 4 individual bundles, which this text aggregator will just squish into one. And then every module from the end of this darked out gray sort of section is just going to proceed to run once again. And in that way, we basically get the concatenated form of all of those summaries that we've independently generated. And then we feed it into OpenAI's, our little consolidation thing, which, changes it into a storytelling format. And then from there, we generate the audio. From there, we upload the file. And then from there, we send the email. I should preface this with, you don't actually need all of these steps depending on how high quality you want the output to be. You could theoretically have gotten it to do the storytelling and the summarization just in one step. But from my experience, GPT-4 Turbo at least at the time of recording this video, just isn't good enough yet to be able to take on like multiple 2 or 3 different instructions at the same time and then do like a fantastic job at them. You're usually much better off just giving it like one lane to sort of drive down and say, hey man, your job is to consolidate this into a summary. Hey man, your job is to take a list of summaries and then turn that into, a story or something along those lines. So there are obviously multiple ways to do so, and I think that we're all mature enough to understand that this isn't the only way. But this is certainly the way that I would do it in practice if I were tasked with building this for an actual client or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so where are we at now? We've generated the text aggregate. So if I open this up, you'll see that basically every summary is demarcated with these 3 hyphens. So 3 hyphens, 3 hyphens. And then we'll feed that into this. This is the summary of the newsletters, which is quite nice. So we now have a sort of storytelling thing. Hey, here's a consolidated summary of the latest insights from various newsletters. We then generate the audio, which is nice. We upload the file, we get the share link, and then I should have just received an email, and I think I did. There you go. Your consolidated newsletter can be found here. So if I open this, it'll just open a Google Drive file. And then what I'm going to do now is just let it play for, 10 seconds or something, just so you guys can verify the quality of the output.
Here's a consolidated summary of the latest insights from various newsletters. 1. Nick Sarev's newsletter. Sarev focuses on optimizing agency operations before considering new hires. He suggests measuring revenue.
Fascinating. Sarev. That's not how you say my name. I wonder how long it'll take before these models get good enough to suss out not just the phonetics, but like the language backgrounds, that sort of thing. Very interesting. That's more or less where we're at now. I would encourage you guys, if you wanted to build out your own productivity system, to make a couple of tweaks to the prompt. Maybe change the tone of voice so that, you want it to be spunkier, or maybe you want it to be more dry, or maybe instead of listicle style things, you want it to just be a bunch of paragraphs. You have the power to do that just by adding the instructions to the GPT modules that preface the audio generation one. You also don't have to be married to this audio generator as well. There are a variety of text-to-speech platforms out there. Like Google Cloud Services offers a really, really good text-to-speech platform where the voices are a little bit more robotic, but they're still very high quality and definitely good enough for you to be able to meaningfully get information from an email summary every morning. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Believe that's it. If you guys have any questions or anything like that about how this specific system works, just let me know. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, comment, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.